I thought we were done with her.
New snow washing away old snow. So the more new when we get faster.
No,
It's cold.
I thought now I take any snow
in the
or
mountains.
rain or whatever.
In the mountains. Yeah. So warm.
Jim Lind was saying this morning that as he compares other towns where it snows in other towns, that we do a way better job at Princeton than a lot of the towns equals in the downtown area. Yeah,
Well, that's good to hear.
yeah.
That's good feedback.
Well, they better with all our fancy equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. I love the little sidewalk cleaner. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to stand up and do that. That would be cool. That looks like a fun job. Isn't it, Mr. David?
Well, some of the feedback we get from the employees, they're like, oh, it's too cold in this thing. They don't like it. So,
Can you get
put a little windshield on it and
Yeah.
we'll put on it.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is the guy in the bottom of the totem pole is the guy who gets that job?
No.
No, okay.
It's actually first come, first served. Well, it's far better than having to hand shovel.
So that's what I was thinking exactly, yeah.
And if there's a light, then we break up the shovels there.
Precisely.
You don't want to lose that skill.
No, that's something to call that.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
It's something to lean on too.
Call the meeting to order. Adoption of the agenda of the February 15th, 2024 committee of the whole meeting.
Make that motion, Deputy Mayor.
Second, that's Mr. Deputy.
Second by Mr. Hanley. Favor. Carried. Additions and delegations. There is none. Unfinished business none. Staff reports, part one, legislative changes, residential development. I think we're handing it over to development.
Good title, I like that one. Thank you. Just an opportunity this morning to talk about the provincial legislative changes to residential development and something that's obviously been in the news a whole bunch, more specifically with larger municipalities, but just an opportunity to talk about what's relevant with Princeton and where our timelines look like, where some of the funding opportunities and changes we can make with our zoning and OCP and moving forward, but opportunities we might have here. I don't know. The broadcast booth has the presentation.
oh, yeah, I can put that up real quick. Which one did you want?
The legislative changes.
Okay.
Residential development.
Take me just a minute. Sorry, this is sprung on me a little bit, so give me 1 second here.
It should be the second link.
Yep. Yes.
There we go.
Shrink it down a little. Yeah. That should do it a pinch.
Might as well hit the next page there already. So, Bill 44 and 46 and 47 were passed November 30th, and essentially the amendments to all three were to bring in opportunities to provide some density in residential areas, increase the housing supply in a shorter order and bring on some more proactive planning for municipalities. Bill 44 is the biggest one. It is the residential bill or residential development legislation. The highlights from that one just new requirements for housing needs reports, increasing the residential development and density, requiring municipalities to update their OCPs and their growth strategy more frequently, and then subsequently pre-zoning residential properties to meet the OCP and housing needs report, as well as some changes to the public hearing process that essentially eliminates that process for properties that are zoned residential, but meet the OCP requirements. So, next slide there. This is the timeline for the legislative changes for municipalities to come into conformity with these changes. The highlighted pieces are mostly what I'm going to speak about today. January 2024, the provincial government announced 51 million in funding to support these changes. Princeton received, I think you saw a letter on our last regular agenda, about $164,000 for implementing these changes. June 30th, 2024 is the deadline for local governments to bring their zoning bylaws into conformity with the small scale multi-unit housing developments. In Princeton, that's essentially allowing secondary suites or accessory dwelling units on any residential property. January 1st, 2025 is the deadline for an interim housing needs report update, and then December 31st, 2025 is the deadline for OCPs and zonings to conform with the new housing needs report. Next. So the June 30th deadline to update our zoning bylaw in 2022, Princeton was pretty proactive on this, and council adopted a zoning amendment that essentially allowed secondary suites in all of our residential zones and ADUs in majority of the zones. So it's pretty minor changes for our community. Next slide. The only major change for us, as you can see, country residential allows both as it is. These are our residential zones. Single family RS1, so our large lot single family allows both. RS2, our single family small lot, allows both. Our RD 2-family residential, which was specifically for duplexes, currently allows secondary suites, but not the ADUs. So that is our only change required to meet the legislation. So it shouldn't be a major challenge for us. Our RD zone, the majority of RD zone properties are in the flats area of the community, and as well as a section along Smilkameen Avenue and Burton Avenue. So talking with infrastructure and Jared Thomas, he doesn't feel like these changes would significantly increase demand on any infrastructure, and feels like it would be a pretty minor change to what we do here at this time. You think about the neighborhoods that this change would affect. A lot of them are small lots. I think the majority of them would unlikely fit a carriage house as they are, and so I don't think it's something that would be a significant change for us. You know, maybe you're talking about a handful of properties that wouldn't, at the end of the day, those or meet the standards to allow those. Next slide. Where is it? Next two slides are the larger changes. These changes apply to communities with populations greater than 5,000 people. They're more significant changes, allowing 3 to 4 dwelling units on a single family lot. Of course, there's something that don't apply here at this time. I think there's some good information and some interesting policy that can be looked at for the future, that may allow us to find some new opportunities in certain areas of the community where some of these changes might be beneficial for Princeton, but at this time they're not anything that apply to us. Next slide. The 60 units. The 60 unit requirements are strictly based on transit oriented areas in the province. We've had clarification that Princeton doesn't meet any of the requirements for these outlined changes. So nothing from those two that would apply in our community right away. Next slide. The next deadline we would have after June 30th is January 1st. This is the deadline for all municipalities to either update or adopt a new housing needs report. In our case, Princeton is going on to year 4 of our current housing needs report. So I think we're leaning more towards just establishing a new report and working on that through starting this spring. Those housing needs reports, the legislation is requiring those. The legislation currently requires those reports to be done completed every 5 years. The changes come with a more standardized modeling for the reports and standardizing a 20-year time frame for those reports and the projection. From that January 1st deadline, we would move the following year, 2025. Next slide, I guess. To the December 31st deadline in 2025, which is an update to both the OCP and zoning bylaws to meet the projections of the housing needs report. So we've obviously just adopted a new official community plan. I think staff's feeling is that plan does a pretty good job of projecting the growth strategy as it is, has already looked at a lot of those long-term figures. And it would be, again, likely a minor adjustment to the OCP through that new housing needs report. But at the end of the day, we will complete the housing needs report and then update the OCP and zoning accordingly. Next slide. So this is just kind of the projection from this and where that the new legislation has really made the housing needs report a trigger to have municipalities update both their OCP and zoning bylaw every 5 years based on the needs from the housing needs report. So we'll initiate the housing needs report. The outcome from the 20-year projections there would then influence the land use management through the official community plan. And then we are now required to pre-zone properties to meet the changes in the official community plan. The probably one of the biggest impacts of this strategy is that pre-zoning properties takes away a lot of our current development financing options, because we would utilize a zoning amendment to have the developer pay for the development, pay for the servicing to those new lots. Where now the provincial legislation says that we're required to pre-zone ahead of time, meaning we don't have that financing tool in place. So I'll speak a little bit more to the new financing tools that are coming, but that's really the biggest impact of some of our planning and development tools that we have today. Next slide. So, again, just to recap of the action plan, for our planning and development and where we sit today. Minor amendments to the zoning bylaw to meet the small scale multifamily legislation. That's got to be completed by June 30th. The housing needs report that will start this spring would need to be adopted by January 2025, and then the official community plan and zoning to reflect that housing needs report in that following year. We have in the budget already a new zoning bylaw as well. These timelines fit that project's timelines as it currently sits. So, I feel like we've been proactive on these changes anyway, and really the significance of this to Princeton is relatively minor at this time compared to some other municipalities. That provincial funding that we spoke about, the 164,000, that funding fits all of these projects. So there is some financial support for us for the housing needs report, as well as the OCP and zoning amendments to fit that model as well. The other part of that funding, the other project that would qualify for this is some of the new development financing tools as well. So everything that we've got to carry out here the next while is supported. Last slide, just talking about the public hearing process. As it sits right now, if development conforms to our OCP, but does not conform to our zoning, and they're applying for a zoning amendment, council has the ability to waive a public hearing. That has now been changed to we cannot hold a public hearing in that situation. So there's no longer a public hearing requirement unless there is an official community plan amendment for a zoning. I think that covers pretty much everything that applies to us, and I'll open up to any questions.
Well, I'm wondering if here all the regulation procedure and that sort of thing. Is there anything that helps us in terms of speeding up projects through, we're always trying to speed up our process for people building.
Yeah, there's two changes that certainly allow us to do that. One, we have recently updated our development procedures bylaw that allows the delegation of staff to approve development variances, development permits, and some minor development procedures that would come to council on it initially. Those have been delegated to staff, streamlining some of those minor pieces. The pre-zoning product of this whole process, making municipality redo their housing needs report, update their OCP, and update their zoning. The reason for doing that is to hopefully eliminate zoning amendments, right? Residential zoning amendments. You would essentially be updating everything every 5 years, so they don't need to apply for those amendments. Right now, they can go straight to building permit stage, assuming we've put the right model together.
And so that's our side of it. Does this have any effect in terms of, how we're sending things away to the government now and then, and then everything's so slow? And I'm wondering, this doesn't change anything.
This doesn't change that. They have had last summer, fall, the province introduced a single file system for all of their, not all, for the majority of their, Park Branch environment. Some of those provincial permits that a developer would be required to submit. They have updated that portal to kind of a one filing system. It's not one I'm familiar with. That's done on the developer's end, and I don't think
time has gone by enough that we would say we've seen anything change or, what do you think, Carrie? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, we can't really answer
Yeah,
that.
it's, we haven't had a significant number of projects that we would know whether that's approved or not yet. I would suspect short term.
Finally, is there anything in this that affects the time period between OCPs?
Yes, yeah, so,
We're asking for it, we're down. Was it a 10-year basis? We had to do it every 10 years before. OCPs.
So the new timeline for an OCP is you're required to update your OCP every 5 years.
Oh,
Yeah, so you have to project 20 years in your growth model, and you have to update it every 5 years. So,
You would do your whole housing needs first.
yes, based on that.
that's the rule.
So just a question on like how you referenced a couple times that we're ahead of it, we're already working on it, and then a couple minor adjustments to it. So that's just a simple zoning amendment or an OCP amendment to bring it into conformity.
Yeah. I mean, until that new housing needs report is complete, we can't say for certain.
So we wouldn't
how
need
much
to
of
do, was my point being that we wouldn't anticipate needing to do a whole new OCP in the next 5 years. We can just do
updates.
amendments into there.
And these, it would be policy review for everything, but essentially the requirement is to meet housing needs,
Right.
right? So it would be checking on our land use for residential, maybe projecting out potential growth areas, and some minor changes there. 5 years, over 5 years in Princeton, how much of a change is there, right? And it will be based on those housing needs reports. And
So an example of where we would need to do an amendment would be to bring the RD zoning into conformity for the accessory dwelling units. Like we may need to modify the setbacks, or we may need to modify the total coverage area of a lot.
yeah, so the legislation, the policy they brought on, basically asks municipalities to be reasonable, right? Make sure you're implementing new setbacks, implementing new lot coverage that would allow these things. The tricky part is all of these things still have to answer to the Building Act, Land Titles Act, Environmental Act. There's a handful of other acts. I think the biggest one is obviously the building code. I mean, you can't go to 0 setbacks in residential areas and then have the building code say that they need so much building separation. So I think their ask is really to meet the building code and not be more restrictive in a lot of those areas. Yeah. So I think again for us, when we made that update to allow carriage houses in all of our residential zones, we took all those things into consideration at that time, and really in this case, our RD zone is less restrictive to fit a duplex already, and this adding a carriage house to that seems like a relatively simple process. Carrie brought up a good point. One of the other restricting factors right now is parking. The province has laid out a guideline for what they would consider a reasonable parking allotment for some of these multiplexes and things like a fourplex in a single family zone. They've said everything from it's okay to not require any parking to it's okay to certainly for suites and accessory dwellings. Their ask is essentially for half a parking spot per secondary suite or
Your worship, you're strangely silent. Thank you. Councilor Elliott. Alrighty. Thank you very much, Mark. So you'll be able to make coffee tonight now that you finished your homework for the last month and a half.
That's right.
See you later. Thank you.
So that would be item 6.1, item 6.2, Brown Bridge inspection report. Jim? Have to keep an eye on it.
Oh, good morning, everyone. So this morning I'm reporting on a couple of items. And, our first item is, where we're at with the Tuolumne River Bridge, also known as, Brown Bridge. So as most of us know, in November of 2021, Town of Princeton was affected by an atmospheric river event. So it pretty much jeopardized a good portion of the corridor of the Tuolumne River network. We sustained foam damages and erosion at the shores and property loss and that kind of thing. Shortly after that, we had a pretty comprehensive inspection done of the Brown Bridge. And at the time, the engineering firm that had done the inspection pretty much gave it a clean bill of health. Subsequently, as time moves along, it is an old bridge. This is the third rendering of the Brown Bridge. This last bridge was built in 1958, I believe. This is the one that we currently have standing at this location. I have been involved in a redeck project in 2017 that gave us a little more time with the overall performance and condition of the bridge, but with the post flood, it was paramount that we had a pretty substantial inspection of the structure. Again, I've retained Watson Engineering just by the sheer intimate knowledge that they have. They've done all our inspections on this bridge in previous years. It actually goes back a generation with the firm. So their latest inspection has pretty much rendered us. We're at a crossroads with decisions that need to be made with this bridge. We're at a point now where we're having to do some pretty substantial repairs. Once again, because of the amount of traffic that we're seeing across the bridge deck, we're looking at a redeck, the main deck. We were hoping to just do the red lines and just repair work. But upon further inspection, it looks like we're going to have to redeck the whole bridge again. Some other items of maintenance that have to be done is going to be the footpath area. So the full length of the footpath is going to have to be redecked. The railing is back in the day wasn't compliant. It was just something for people to handhold as they went across the bridge. However, that doesn't meet your standards. So we are going to have to increase the handrail height to 42 to 48 inches now to meet the new bicycle recommendations of going across River Bridge. Again, some of the cross bracing that holds the bridge together is we're going to have to address some of those issues. And again, the main deck and all the side railings are going to have to be redone again, unfortunately. If you look at the bridge, it's referred to as a Howe truss in engineering circles. You pretty much see them scattered all through the interior of BC, through forestry and roads alike. It was a cheap and cherry bridge to build back in the day. It still is today from an engineering perspective. But with that being said, it's also a house of cards. With every timber in there you remove, the whole bridge will come down. It needs all of the working pieces to make the bridge work. From what I gather, in 1998, the bridge was pretty much had been issued a death card, and we had at the time worked with ministry. We worked with highways, we worked with internal fundings and that kind of thing to do some upgrades that bought us some more time. Again, here we are at a crossroads. We are at date to do the repairs to the bridge and get it up to just a maintenance standard. There's no extension. Make that clear. There is no extension to the life of the bridge. We're currently sitting at about 400,000. So I earmarked 250,000 to do just-in-time repairs through our 2024 capital plan. We'll obviously experience a shortfall with that, just by the sheer funding component of it, having to absorb this cost ourselves. So if we were to replace this bridge, we had a windfall. We're looking at approximately $10,000 a square foot. Now, we've looked at this a couple of times, and would we stay with a single lane alternating traffic bridge with the expansion of the town of Princeton, the road use, that kind of thing? It wouldn't make sense to go with a single use bridge. So to replace that bridge with a 2-lane bridge and reconfiguring some traffic flows, we're looking at about $30 million in today's dollars to replace that bridge. It won't have the character features that the old Brown Bridge has. It'll be a very austere bridge. It'll be just a basic form and function. So 2 lanes open span, just to facilitate the flow traffic. So as we get closer to doing the major repairs, like I alluded to earlier, I have earmarked $250,000 approved in the 5-year plan, 5-year fiscal plan. That would be just to do just repairs. There will be no extension to life. I have actually contracted 2 engineering firms, one to fact check the information given by Watson Engineering, and they concur. There's no further life expectancy. We're at a point where we're going to start making efforts for funding. So that, in a nutshell, is kind of where we're at. My recommendations this year is, again, is based off of Watson Engineering. We're just going to move through because of funding and just looking at the general life expectancy of the bridge. I think we'll stay steadfast with our capital expenses at the $250,000. So this year we will be updating the walking path and again going back and just replacing the rut line part of the deck. It's kind of a penny wise pound foolish approach, but however, we just don't have funding to at the major repairs. And again, I think it's a decision to not carry on with the Strong Bridge at its current state. I think it's just we're just going to throw a bit of money after that. So I think coming in the near future, we should start a serious thought of what we're going to do with the traffic plan with the Brown Bridge. That's about it. Without getting into too scientific of the whole engineering facts and figures, it's pretty well laid out. Watson Engineering had done a pretty thorough inspection of the bridge. One thing to note, during their inspection, I was present at some of the inspection processes. So they had done the inspection in the summer of 2022. This is the comprehensive inspection I'm speaking of. We'd actually put core samples of all the structure. So some of the wood that had come out of there actually was old growth timber. And oddly enough, when we had drilled and plugged the timber, it actually expressed water. There was a pretty substantial water flow coming out of the timbers. Don't know why that was, but it was just old growth retention of water in the substructure. So interesting.
Jim, I think, was that finger up in order to, ask a question or something, your worship? Have you heard of percentage wise of any funding that had been done? What the municipality ended up paying, what percentage?
No. Oh, you're correct. We are trying to maybe fit it into a flood mitigation program, but it's gonna be a bit of a process.
There is no provincial.
Well, the flood mitigation process is, there is a federal component, a provincial component, and then a municipal component. So we're just kind of investigating all that at this point.
It seems unfair in terms of the fact that they gave it to us. Yet now that we're in a problem with it, there's no help. So,
Yeah. It's a similar, yeah, the next topic on the agenda is a similar situation.
yeah. All right, was that it for that, Jim?
I think that's it, unless we have any further questions from you, Morris.
Councilman?
So the 250 that's in the budget for this year will just do the Band-Aid stuff.
Yeah, it'll just do this, the bare minimum, so we will be able to redo the footpath area, and the handrail, and, some just general main deck repairs. It will bring us back to a level of safety.
Okay.
Uh,
And then is that work being done in-house or do you have to contract?
No, that will be contracted out. I have, surprisingly enough, we have 5 expressions of interest, which is, was pretty much unheard of. But anyways, we have 5 expressions of interest, of firms that are, this is where their expertise is large timber construction. I've pretty much in my mind selected the firm that's going to be doing the repairs. I've looked at their resume, and it's quite a substantial resume. It looks like they do good quality workmanship. However, I will bring that to staff report as we get closer.
And then when that report comes, can you give an estimation of how many days the bridge will need to be closed?
So I can actually tell you that right now. So anyways, preliminary repairs, we had to basically do all our legwork and make sure all our permits were in place, section 11 for working over an active waterway. So we're hoping that at the end, so May 1st to September 1st is traffic disruptions. Now, with that in mind, we will keep open the pedestrian traffic. We'll basically take the top deck of the Brown Bridge and turn that into pedestrian traffic while they are working on the footpath side of things. So that will have no disruption there. However, vehicle traffic will have to be going there.
From May 1st to September 1st for the full summer.
Yeah.
That's it. Comment.
I'm sorry,
Mr. Mayor has called.
your worship.
Well, we're hoping that we definitely don't have fires this year. I think if that freezes, that will be good. Hopefully it comes to the surface early in the season, so we put a hold on the repairs because we will need all avenues of transportation network. We seen that during the floods. The whole Highway 5 corridor was just overwhelmed with the traffic flow, and the Brown Bridge was part of the relief of the traffic flow, traffic stall conundrum, however you want to look at it. So we are going to make every effort to keep the bridge open in an emergency situation. So that was expressed to the contractors at the time of when we're talking about it. So,
Well, it would, if anything, maybe there'll be public support on pushing the provincial government to help with the new bridge
so absolutely.
when they see how frustrating it is to access the west side and beyond. I mean,
Yes, sir. Absolutely, Mayor Coyne. So our next steps will be as the emergency traffic plan as far as for disruption of the Brown Bridge and how we're going to best keep that open during an event. Hopefully we don't have it, but we always got to be prepared. So that will be the next steps. We'll draft up an emergency plan.
Couple things in my mind is that I suppose you're gonna run it at the busiest time of the year because of weather to enable to fix better weather to fix it.
So here's another contributing factor. So currently we can't get the wood in Canada to repair this bridge. We were in the same situation when we did the deck. The last round in 2017, we had to retain the materials from a mill in Tacoma, Washington. So there was a significant delay in that. Now, with that being said, there's also another underlying condition that we don't see in real time. It's the Canadian US dollar and also the fluctuation in wood prices. So here's a little statistic for you. Every day that's currently going at this time, every day, we are looking at a $750 to a $1,000 price correction every day. So between the fluctuation of the Canadian US dollar, the timber prices, when we go to commit to the purchase of the timber, it could be significantly higher. So it's going to be very tough to nail this whole thing down. So at time of final approval, we're going to have to pre-order the wood. And this is going to basically impact when we have a start time, because this was the problem we had last time in 2017. Once the order was placed, we were at the mercy of the mills. So of course they're going to want to get all their revenue stuff out of the way first. The deck timber was a cut. So these are other contributing factors. If mayor and council says, all right, yeah, green light to go, let's get this happening, I may not be able to commit this to a 2024 budget. We may have to defer this to 2025. So the sooner the better. That's what I'm trying to say when it comes time to doing bridge deck timbers.
What's forcing us into do
So, well, basically, the footpath portion of it is in a state of like full on decline. I mean, the boards, they're breaking apart, they're moving, the railing is, again, is in a state of disrepair. So urgency is needed. 2023, we had done some just-in-time repairs to the pad railings just to, stabilize it, but there's bigger issues brewing underneath, right? So again, with the deck boards themselves, we put steel plates just to kind of limp us along a little bit further, but the timbers underneath, they're splitting. So we're at a point of no return, so to speak. So
Jim, how soon do you expect to have this on the regular agenda for us to review?
so as soon as we have final approval, 5-year fiscal approval, we will move forward with that right away.
So, okay. That's why you're waiting
It'll be in
for
the-
the
it'll be in the
adoption.
month of April, and that's reports done. All the preliminaries are all done behind the scenes. That's all done. Our permitting's already in place. The contractors are locked and loaded for the most part. All we're waiting to do is to be hinged on the wood.
So you're needing to secure that contract and stuff is waiting on us adopting our agenda. I mean, budget. That's it. It doesn't need to come back for it.
No, the only thing is, basically is to approve the initial purchase of, the timbers and then the retention of the contractor. So those would be the two,
I don't see it recommended. Were we expecting to put something through today?
No. It's just to bring it to your attention, have open discussion.
That will just be done in-house. It's not gonna have to come back to the table.
Well, as Jim mentioned, the awarding of the contract, once the budget is approved, the awarding of the contract will come back to council.
I thought what he was talking about was the ordering of the wood.
Yeah, until we approve our budget, we can't actually proceed.
So that's, we're done with that?
Maybe I can speak to that for a moment.
Sorry.
So, if there is an emergency situation, our purchasing policy does allow us to, and the community charter allows us to sidestep the financial plan portions to fund something. With the resolution for this project, it would essentially require us to put in a piece of the resolution that said council is, that commits council to fund this through the 2024 financial plan. So, so you'd be essentially tying your hands with the resolution, and then the money could be spent in that situation. So there is a method for approving this expenditure without the financial plan being passed in its finality.
That could be next regular.
It could be brought to the next regular.
And then that can allow Jim to proceed with securing the timber and then the contract. That we can have asked to do on the next regular agenda. We can put it on the agenda.
We have a method for funding.
Okay, done with that, moving on to Philomene Avenue retaining wall. Hopefully some better news.
yes, so marginally better. Marginally better. So again, sort of a pass down here from the ministry at some point to the town of Princeton as far as ownership. Actually, I have an exact snapshot in time when the process happened. It was in May of 1998, I believe, 95 or 98. If you look, just bear with me a second here. It's just a note of interest. This was passed over here.
In 1998.
The 98. So that's when the ministry, if you look at the thing, they kind of went through all their small highway networks and said, here's the local municipality this year, you are, folks. Here's your little look at for perpetuity. So anyways, I think at that time, I believe a further study should have been done of what we're kind of taking into one fold. But at any rate, here we are in 2024. And once again, this project was spearheaded by our department, and the technicals were Watson Engineering. Done a fantastic job of coming up with a full-on report and resolution of how to fix it. The resolution on how to fix it had come in after the fact of this. However, I do have a copy of it. It's basically what it's speaking to is how do we go about fixing it. So once again, it's nothing we can do in-house. It'll have to be a contracted project. So I had retained the services of Watson Engineering to do a full inspection of the Tulameen corridor with at the private property of Luard. I believe it's 272 Luard. The retaining wall is made up of a three-part system, and the interior part of it is in a state of full failure. So I forget the name of it, but essentially I refer to it, the finger jointed retaining wall portion is failed, and it's starting to affect the course of the Tulameen Avenue. So anyways, just to sort of in the spirit of time here, basically the report's saying that we have to repair the interior section of the wall. And their repair method of choice is to use the block system that's used towards the east of the wall. It looks like the ministry, when it was under their ownership, had done 3 separate repairs just because of the different style systems of retaining. And so the latter of the repairs is essentially what we're going to do to repair the forward section. With that being said, the owners at the Luard address have sort of taken issue with us working on and around our own property there. They've extended their fence line into the town's right of way, and it's making it very difficult. It made it very difficult during the inspection process to carry out the inspection. So at any rate, we are, as a municipality, going to have to sort of claw that property back because we're going to need that to work in there. So that will be a bylaws issue, I'm sure. We'll have to get our bylaws team out there and sort of start issuing, tickets, I guess, to getting our property back so we can actually get in there and work. Again, I've taken the liberty retaining, not so much retaining, but at least getting some expressed interest in contractors to repair the wall. And at today's dollars, we're looking at around 175 to 200,000 to do the repairs. So that will basically reinstate the wall, bring it back into a compliant situation, redo the top rail, the chain link top rail, and repair only the section of Tulameen Avenue.
Jim,
Yes.
Your worship,
That's good news. So talking with the contractors, it will be a pretty relatively quick project. So time to start to finish, very little traffic disruption. We will divert traffic around, but they anticipate from time to start to time to finish is around 1 month. So that's not too bad. So again, it's one of those things we don't want to coordinate with the bridge closures when that time comes. We want to keep all our avenues open. However, I think this is a project, it's something we have to do. But we can defer it well into 2025, 2026. So it's not an immediate failure. There is some, materials coming off the wall at this point right now, but it's not a catastrophic failure. It's not like we're gonna, the whole wall's gonna blow out. We're gonna, have huge property damage and that kind of stuff. That's not the case.
Okay. Well, hard to see now,
Way down here.
little people.
Yeah, well, this, Jim, you had mentioned that we have a right of way down there. Has that been surveyed to show that it's where the registered owners are?
That is correct. So we did have a pathway through there. Back in the days, sort of the early days of my employee here, I was actually asked to put some fence line through there. And at that time, it was a walking, you basically came off the Tulameen Avenue and walked through all the way into Boulevard. So the homeowner there, she took ownership of the property and basically took it upon herself to extend her fence line out and sort of, redirect the foot traffic. It's been problematic because that is definitely a disastrous area for foot traffic to walk, is up on the Tulameen deck, especially with snow in that area. So anyways, it's definitely something we need to bring back in. I had made an attempt through a local surveying firm, and they were chased off the property. So I believe Lyle can speak to that. I believe that we did finally have a survey done.
Yes, that's correct. We now have a secured legal survey of the property. We know exactly where the property lines are, and there is room there for us to make it safe by putting up a fence to keep the property owner back from the crumbling wall. It's not like, as Jim said, it's not in immediate decline where we're fearful of it failing, but some material that's crumbling off, and even the property owner has identified that as an issue. And so what I think we should do is we should put up a barrier fence just to sort of separate our property from the homeowner's property and keep everyone safe, and then plan for works to be done in 2025.
Did that provide an access for something you were saying before?
Yeah, it was sort of it was an unwritten foot traffic. Basically, it just evolved over the years. People were cutting through and using it as a shortcut.
And it was all our property. Well, my mind, well, absolutely, we need to fence it right to, make sure it's there when we need it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Is there not still a laneway there that foot traffic could use?
No.
There's no
No,
lane.
she's basically fenced it right off, right to she's actually using the good part of the retaining wall to secure her fence line.
Is there a registered laneway?
Yeah. There is a registered laneway up on the backside of her property. So it goes from whatever street that is down by the little market there.
Dudney?
Is it Judy? Yeah. So there's definitely a back alley that pops right up on top of Tulameen Avenue. It wasn't for vehicle traffic, but it's just it's a bit of a dicey area to come out. So
Yeah.
it's been just
Fine.
foot traffic. So.
So go ahead.
Speaking of fences, I'm surprised that it's just a chain link fence on top of a section of that. And I know the report indicates there's a possibility of putting cement abutments. Is that the plan?
So currently, Councillor Litt, there is abutments up there, and we've actually capitalized off it to retain that chain link fence. We put some stabilization in there because of the sort of the decline of the cement work up there. The fence was starting to move, and pretty substantially. And so our fears was, highways would have come through, spotted a bunch of snow against it, and then boom, it was one over private property. So we've used those sort of barricades to retain that fence network, but it needs to be all reinstated.
Thank you.
I guess I have a hard time believing that when they came in, they handed this over to us. Went down there and they showed us what they were gonna do, and they did it, but apparently they didn't do it completely enough. And now that it has to be done, I have a hard time believing that they wouldn't put some sort of funding towards it.
Yeah, the mayor's had some good conversations with them. Minister about this, and, yeah, originally when they did the repair work, they did the east side and the west side, and they left the middle section, 100-foot section, sort of as it originally was. And that's the section that is failing now, so.
Okay, are there any?
Does this need to come back to council for a decision on putting in a fence?
Eventually, yeah, we'll have to, you know, it depends on the dollar value. We'll consider this at a-
And if, when the report does come, can we get a visual of the property lines where their encroachments are? Please and thank you.
Ready? Moving on to, thank you, Jim. Moving on to 2024 grant and aid request. Is there someone speaking to this?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Minister of Finance.
I'd like to be your minister. I'm all right with that. Give me 1 second here. Should switch things over.
Who's that old guy sitting at the desk?
Speaking in silence here. There we are. And sorry, I just had to adjust back from the previous presentation. I think everyone will be able to see that. So grant needs for 2024, the paperwork was due on January 31st. We actually received 3 applications on January 31st and 1 application on February 1st, which we will, which is also included on this, on the screen. There were some administrative challenges they had. So we deemed it in on the 31st and counted as well. Grant needs are issued to qualifying nonprofits, registered societies that require capital funding, startup capital primarily for their operations. In the 2024 capital plan, we have earmarked $25,000. The requests that were submitted were $25,397 to 4 different organizations. The Princeton Curling Club, who wishes to get, and Lyle could probably speak to this. He knows the terminology a little bit better than I do, but essentially they are the fabric inserts that go over top of the ice, so they don't have to repaint the lines every year. They can just go with their lines that are. They bring out the fabric, they put it on. We do the same thing in the arena. We put the fabric inserts on, and then we'll put the ice over top. So we don't have to paint the inserts. They're fabric that's embedded in the ice. China Ridge Trails Association. They have a plan which is included in the documentation to train some volunteers for tree falling at the China Ridge Park over in the snow patch there north of town. They also want to bring in a contractor to do some professional tree falling where their volunteers would fall down. The Senior Citizens Association need a commercial bingo machine. Their current machine is to the point of failure. They can't find parts for it. So they've requested a grant and aid so that they can replace their current machine. Approximately pays for about half of it. A new commercial bingo machine is about $20,000. And the swim club has asked us to pay money for the coaching honorariums. It's customary in a swimming program to pay coaches. That line item has appeared a couple times since I've been here, but $3,000 is typically what they ask is for that. My recommendation to council, and this is strictly for information and presentation only. We can't actually pass this, motion during committee of the whole meeting, but, strictly it's to get council's, impressions as to, how we should allocate the funding. And then we'll put forth a motion to release the funding during the council meeting on the 21st.
Yes. It's,
It's on the list.
there's 10,000 on this list, Mr.
Should be muted, actually. Are you able to mute? Yeah, Spencer, you're not muted, sir.
You're not muted, Spencer, yeah. So. Fair enough, okay. If I had any recommendations to kind of pass on to council, for this, the curling club, I think could be funded through the operational budget of the municipality. We have a budget for municipal buildings. 2397 is a nominal amount, and it would probably better be served outside the grant and aid program to provide funding for a municipal building. That's where that should come from. China Ridge Trails Association, again, I would caution council, as the mayor was saying, that the China Ridge Trails Association is outside of municipality, and the regional district might be a better source of funds for that project. I'll just finish my presentation here. Senior Citizens Association is there, and the Swim Club Society, that's been asked for multiple years. So yeah, I'll in our current grant and aid policy, multiple years of funding is not usually something you want to support with this program specifically. So I'll leave it to council's deliberation. If you need me to ask any questions on the grant and aids, I will. So thank you.
Ask a question.
Oh, I was just gonna suggest for Trinity Ridge Trails as part of their tree felling, program, maybe they could speak with Dave from Fire Smart, and it might be something that, through his funding, he can help. So. it's just-
Yeah, he also has a mandate to work with the regional district on that too. So
That
that might
would
be a
my
better source of
suggestion.
funds than us.
Your worship,
Yeah, that's correct. And we've got signs, fabric signs like this that have lasted, they're going on 10 years, so it does have a long life expectancy, and especially as you mentioned, that we're not rushing the thawing process along. Like at the arena, we're usually under a timeline to get the ice out. These guys, they actually keep their ice in longer, and then when they do want to take the ice out, it's a slow process. So they're able to protect the integrity of the fabric a lot better than we can.
would they be, because of the trees, would they be keeping ice in all year?
They don't keep it all year round, but they
Extended period.
yeah, extended period, and no one actually uses it other than the seedlings,
No.
just to keep them cold. And then once that program is done, then they allow the ice to come out.
Okay, so then I'm missing the point of these.
The idea is it's a lay down rather than scribing and painting the circles. They actually can just lay them out, and it's a very fast process. We do the same with our signage at the arena and our center ice logo, rather than having it hand painted. We just lay it out and freeze over top, and it's reusable.
I have a question about the swim club. In the policy, it says no organization will receive more than 3 municipal grants in a 4-year period. How many grants have they received in the last 4 years?
I don't, they did not apply for one last year. I'd have to go back in my records to see when the last swim club grant was received, but they've received several in the time that I've been.
Okay, so then in the last 4 years, including this year, if they didn't receive one last year, they would be in compliance with it.
That's right.
I think it actually says in the application
Yeah.
when they receive the house.
Yeah, I think it looks good. Yeah. I can probably bring it up pretty quick. Oh, it says right on their application. So give me 1 second here. I can bring that up.
I think the bear has a comment. Spencer has a comment.
Oh,
Yeah, it's the grant and aid policy is 10,000. We can always put in a capital project to purchase a bingo machine if we needed to. We can, yeah, there's a couple of different options we can to take it out of the grant and aid program and just put it in the capital plan to pay for it. Ownership becomes a slight issue because it would be town property if we paid for it. But we finance several nonprofits outside of the grant and aid program. The junior posse, the family fun night, the arts council, we all fund outside the grant and aid program, so it falls under different qualifications. But we can put that in the capital fund if we needed to. Yep, for sure. It can go as a grant. We receive a invoice from the seniors center and then pay that, and they retain ownership, or we can buy it and install it into the building, and we would consider it a town asset. So either ownership model would work. Yeah, I can implement it into the financial plan and present it when we go to third reading.
So I have a question. Could it possibly be hybrid where we're doing the 10,000 from the grant and aid and then the difference from a capital project?
We could, but I don't think it would make much of a difference at this point because it'd still be underfunded.
But if we don't approve it now,
Then it would be approved with a financial plan, and then we could just purchase it in a month or two, which is what they would have to do anyway, because $10,000 isn't going to buy them the bingo machine they need.
right, it's a start though, and then they can look at leveraging that.
I think it's, and I could be wrong, I didn't say it in the application, but I think it's an all or nothing proposition. The machine costs $20,000 to $25,000. It's not they can buy 10,000 and get through this, and then another 15,000 will complete the project. 10,000 will sit in a bank account. It might as well sit in ours and collect interest, and then we can purchase the capital project when the budget gets passed.
So you're not thinking that approving them and within the grant and aid, like.
I don't think it would-
ensuring
I don't think it
10,000
would
now,
make much
and then a second review based on capital project for the difference.
Yeah, I don't think it would.
Right, I get that. I'm just saying if we don't approve it as a grant in aid, and then it gets to the budget, and then for some reason it gets deferred off the budget, they don't even have the 10,000 to start leveraging.
Did we finish with the swimming pool?
Actually, I wanted to interject on that. On their application, it says the last time they applied and were approved for grant was 2019.
And it was 2,500,
That for, oh, that's.
the swim club. I'd like to see that stay on.
This is,
here.
this is the swim club's application.
Yeah.
It's just, it was all like blacked out, so it was a little harder to read. That's why I wanted confirmation.
Yeah.
That they do, that's actually the
That's the curling-
curling rigs
That's
application.
the curling club there.
Pardon me. Give me
That's how we received their application. It was like,
Like highlighted.
yeah.
Yeah. That's why I just wanted to be sure, but I'd like to support that the swim club be retained in this year's.
So are we intending to get some direction on these today, or are you just?
I just, I would, ask council if at all possible to let me know in what amounts and which organizations we wish to put under the grant and aid program, and then I can, I'll have time to put the, motion in front of council for the 21st.
So you want.
Time frame.
21st. If you can give input today, and then he'll make the adjustments and bring it back to council.
So deal with this now.
Yes, please.
Okay, so do we want to go through it one by one, or what?
Sure.
Second year? Yeah, so if I'm,
So curling club, we were gonna deal with through,
yeah, so that would be through the operating budget.
okay. China Ridge Trail, we were gonna refer.
We're gonna refer to the regional district, yeah.
Senior citizens,
We're gonna refer to the capital budget.
okay. Coconut Swim Club, we seem to be in favor of that.
Yes.
I am. So anything else, or?
Nope, I would, I guess we can't pass resolutions at a committee of the whole meeting, but,
That's only
you can,
$3,000.
you can, just direct staff that, that we approve the $3,000 and, or, sorry.
I just have another question. This doesn't affect the business facade improvement or, I think council would like us to bring in an accessibility grant for businesses. So this funding here doesn't affect.
This is strictly the grant aid line.
Grant aid.
Perfect.
There would be no grant aid for if the Posse makes the playoffs.
Different line item. I didn't receive an application in time.
What do you mean if they make the
I was
playoff?
gonna say, they're
Come on.
division leaders.
Well, we knew probably a month ago we were in the playoffs, so.
Though based on last year's attendance at the playoff, I think the community will come through and support you guys quite a bit.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so is that sufficient then, in terms of?
Yeah,
Direction?
I will, I'll bring that $3,000 back in the motion on the 21st. Thank you.
Alrighty, moving on. No correspondence received and filed. Correspondence, action requested. Oh, motion to close, that the meeting be closed to the public for the purposes of considering following labor relations or other employee relations.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Cool. I'm guessing.
Yes, I just put my hand up. Yes, please.
All those in favor? Carried.
This is special staff.
They will,
Okay. So, I'll take notes.